Hello, everyone. I hope you're having an amazing start to your June. If you are new here, my name is Kobe Courtney Boone. I am managing director and founder of Boone Capital. We are a private equity firm in the real asset space, so land, ranches, timber, and all the wonderful things that come along with recreation in the outdoors. So I am super excited about today's video. So, what I want to talk about today, as the title says, is who are the hidden buyers, if you will? Who's actually buying, managing, stewarding land? And today I'm going to focus on Texas, but I think what will be a key takeaway from this video and personal conversations that I've had, several different organizations that I personally support, along with my wife and my family when it comes to stewardship of land, is understanding a little bit of the who today. And I'll follow up with this video as to the why in the cycles of land, of how it kind of transitions and changes ownership. So, this video today, we're going to kind of keep it around 10 minutes, but because of the context, I want to start off with a little bit of some facts and research for you and resources, and then go into a little bit more of the key drivers. So first things first, let's start with the Trust for Public Land. Trust for Public Land has helped protect millions of acres nationwide and has completed thousands of park and conservation projects. So you can look them up, Trust for Public Land, as being someone who is a steward, if you will, nationwide of land. Now, this is a popular name that you guys might know of, which is the Nature Conservancy. Wonderful folks over there that I've been able to be in contact with. So, the Nature Conservancy helps conserve tens of millions of acres globally and works across 50 states. So, here in the US, there's presence there for the Nature Conservancy all over, literally. Now, more specifically, let's niche down. Texas Parks and Wildlife Department manages more than 1.4 million acres through its state parks, through wildlife management areas where you can go and hunt and recreate, and also related holdings for properties, which I'll talk about that last one there a little bit more as well. The U.S. National Wildlife Refuge System manages roughly 95 million acres. The U.S. National Park System encompasses actually more than 85 million acres. And in that, you also have your counties, your cities, water authorities, uh, flood control districts, transportation agencies. That's a big one people don't know about. DOT collectively acquire hundreds of thousands of acres annually for infrastructure, flood mitigation, watershed protection, which is a huge one, parks and recreation as well. So what I kind of want to do is back this up to the beginning. So those are a couple of resources for you guys, but I want to get into our thesis of the conversation. The meat and potatoes for today is who exactly are the hidden buyers of land that nobody talks about. So most investors typically spend, when it comes to land or real estate in general, they mostly spend all their time studying the seller. Why is this person, this individual, this group, this organization um, dispositioning a particular property, which is a very good question to ask. But very few I've found, especially in the land space, spend enough time studying the future buyer. What is the story? What does this property tell me? What is its story? And what is the highest and best use for the future of this property, if you will? And that one mistake can completely change, you guys, completely change whether a deal succeeds at its most optimal level or if it fails. And that's mainly because the reality is, phone off here, because the reality is most important buyer for a property may not be just another investment group or another investor. It may not be a developer. It may not be your hunter, your outdoorsman. It may not even be somebody per se who's looking to make money. That's a big one. The hidden buyer may be someone nobody is thinking about, and that's very interesting when we start the discussion about conservation, green spaces, and public use for property. That's kind of the basis of what I want to talk about today. So again, when most people evaluate a property, they're asking how many acres, is there paved road frontage, can I hunt it, can I fish on it, can I build on it, can I subdivide it? What is my price per acre if you're talking to your developers? And all of those are really great questions. But there's another question that's even more important, and that is, who is the most logical buyer 5 years from now? If I'm looking at, a 5 year cycle, if you will, who is the most important buyer for this particular property? And I think it's very important that if you don't know who that is, I've always been told, and I've found this to be true, that you make all your money on the buy. It is very important when doing your due diligence from an acquisition standpoint. Now, one of the biggest lessons that I've recently learned while evaluating this 356-acre tract that we're looking to acquire in Dallas County is the exit strategy often determines the acquisition strategy, right? Like, think about it. Like, most people buy first and they figure out the exit later, right? Like, I want a great deal, want the numbers in pencil. Let's figure out, who we're going to sell it to later. But being a sophisticated investor, being a managing director, a steward of capital, of family offices, ultra high net worth individuals, what have you, um, my goal is to do the opposite. My goal is to steward on the front end so we don't have pain on the back end. And identifying that optionality of that exit buyer, if you will, is so key early on in the diligence process. So I want to give you guys a example, a real world example. This is a real thesis of a property we're currently evaluating and acquiring. So property has 4 lakes, significant water resources. We speculate 200 feet in depth because this was a former sand and gravel quarry mine. We have evidence of wildlife habitat, absolutely beautiful, with a creek that goes through the full extension of the 356 acres. So definitely running into some beautiful stream mitigation zone areas there as well. We've got paved road frontage. We've got recreational potential. Folks have already been fishing on the property. We got evidence of hunting on the property as well with some shotgun shells. And its conservation value, an adjacent parcel has actually already been acquired, backed by a Dallas County organization to turn into a park for a green space. Proximity to major metros is right within 20 minutes of downtown. And you have to ask yourself, who would buy that, right? And most people would think maybe another investor, again, outdoorsman, sportsman, hunting club, or an adjacent landowner. And what I have found in the conversations is that the highest value buyer in some cases might be a city, municipal organizations, a county, a conservation organization, a land trust, or foundations. I've had conversations with those folks, a parks department, a public access recreation group, or a municipality that is trying to preserve, again, green spaces. And when you start to look at these different organizations and what they're able to bring to the table from a local standpoint, the story starts to look very, very different for that piece of property. And this is something I've learned again from these recent conversations that I've had in due diligence for this property is that what we look to in evaluating raw land is very different from traditional investors in that we are looking at return on investment, we are looking at cash flow, yield, development potential for improvements, access for that development potential as well. Conservation buyers, in that sense, may focus more on things like habitat, connectivity. What does it connect to? What trails? Hey, I'm a 3-time marathoner, so I spend a lot of time on light rails and green spaces and running, preparing for my marathons. What areas connect to it as well for hiking, biking, trail rides, and families. Public access, that's something that is a huge part of conversation, especially in Texas with so much land being privately held and owned. What is the impact of the water resources? Delineation is a huge conversation right now with data centers and, also clean, usable waters, Department of Environmental Quality. These things matter in a very institutional and big way. Obviously, environmental impact and value, ecological impact for local wildlife species and biodiversity, and ultimately long-term stewardship. So what I hope I'm not losing you guys in today, and I said this video is going to be a little more meat and potatoes, is that in so many words, when we walk a piece of property, we're looking at what does the property tell us it is. Simply put, what when you walk on that piece of property and you're looking at it, there's there's two columns. uh, we're not just getting immediately excited. We're not showing per se emotion. We are diligent in understanding what assets this property presents, what liabilities this property presents, and what are the facts that form the avatar, if you will, of who our exit strategy is for, who our end buyer actually is for that piece of property. And what that looks like as far as assets would be water, clean access, wildlife, location, recreation, timber, open space. Liabilities look like infrastructure costs, environmental issues that could lead to costs. Deeded access is a huge one. Access challenges, regulatory concerns, maintenance requirements, and then stepping back and looking at that thing and saying, "Hey, again, how has our initial story presented itself, and now what does the story of this property tell us now that we've had a better understanding during that diligence period?" So, in so many words, what I want to say in this video is that when you look at the hard facts, when you look at the buyers that exist, sometimes conservation, or historically, most specifically, conservation has sat on one side of the table, and your development folks have sat on another side of the table. And the folks that I'm having conversations with now who are in wetland mitigation, actually doing the permitting of these processes, building subdivisions, some of my mentors who have lately done $500 million in real estate over the last 30 years out of Florida. And I'm only saying that number for to give an idea of the scale of these folks who are also, supporters of green spaces, conservation, and these mixed use properties. Um, the tailwinds in the future, I believe, are for folks who are able to bring both sides of the table together, and look at what is highest and best use, and the cleanest disposition for a piece of property that both serves the public access and the greater good, and saves the planet, if you will, while also providing opportunities for return for the landowner themselves, the organization themselves, and be able to provide what's needed for local development to both mitigate and provide homes for the future. So, and not just homes, but access for the future as well. So, in so many words, I'm really excited about continuing this conversation, the folks that I'm speaking with, and having conversations about how Boone Capital is strategically positioned to be able to serve. So, thank you so much for your time. God bless.